Hey guys, how's it going? Well, the vivo X90 Pro is finally here and I've been using it as my camera of choice for quite some time now. And there's no denying the fact that the camera here is absolutely amazing. As long as you look at it as an individual camera. But of course, it's always good to compare it with its competition, and the vivo X90 Pro goes directly against its similar brother. Well, I say brother because Vivo is essentially BBK and BBK also has OnePlus, and then we have the OnePlus 11. So, which of these devices has the better camera setup and which device should you pick if you're all about that camera? Well, let's find out. This is One from GTR and you're watching my in-depth camera comparison of the Vivo X90 Pro with the OnePlus 11. Let's get started. Hey, I recorded this video, we shot and everything, and then Vivo launched the phone at a starting price tag of 85,000 rupees in India, and that's just absurd. Of course, it puts it in direct competition with the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and that video will be dropping soon. But meanwhile, initially I had thought that this phone will be priced somewhere around 60,000, which is why we compared it with the OnePlus 11. And even then, there are some interesting things to note here. So make sure to watch this video and go ahead and subscribe to our channel for when our comparison with the 13 Pro drops as well. Okay, so first things first, let's just get the specifications of both these devices out of the way. Now on the OnePlus 11, you get a 50MP primary sensor, a 32MP telephoto lens with 2x optical zoom, and a 48MP ultrawide sensor. On the other hand, the vivo X90 Pro has a 50MP primary sensor, which is actually a flagship 1-inch sensor, coupled with another 50MP telephoto lens with 2x optical zoom, and a 12MP ultrawide sensor. And up front, Vivo has a 32MP selfie shooter, while the OnePlus 11 settles for a 16MP selfie camera. So how do both of these cameras perform? Well, before we get to that, I wanted to pause this video and comment down below which smartphone you feel or predict is going to be performing better. And then by the end of it, let's find out if you were able to predict correctly or not. With that being said, let's start off by taking a look at some daylight shots first. Starting off with the daylight shots, it's evident from the get-go that OnePlus prefers a more contrasty tone. It drops the highlights a bit, turns the shadows a bit darker, and prefers to achieve that cinematic look, which definitely does look appealing. Now the only downside to this is that in some instances, this can result in the shot looking a bit over-processed, especially when you're dealing with a lot of tiny elements or foliage. Now on the other hand, the X90 Pro's 1-inch sensor allows for a lot more light to creep in, and it's not just for low light performance. In daylight shots as well, the photos turn out much brighter than your eyes would perceive. Now I wouldn't call it overexposed to be honest, but they are slightly brighter than the OnePlus 11 for sure. And see, that is good if you're someone who prefers to edit your images later on, because any editor would know it's always better to have slightly brighter image, because then you can just tone it down a little bit. If the image is already a bit darker and then you try playing with levels, there will always be a lot of noise. So again, if you are into editing and manually post-processing your images, Vivo is a great option. But if you prefer to just directly share images whenever you click them and just share them as it is, the OnePlus 11 might appeal to you more. Now moving on to HDR shots, the cinematic tone of OnePlus's camera is much more evident here. See, from a purely critical perspective of analyzing the image, it is Vivo that has a much higher dynamic range. The highlights are well balanced and the shadows are preserved as well. Now OnePlus opts to darken the shadows as always, while slightly tuning the highlights and boosting the contrast. Now while you do get a cinematic shot, that also means that your results are always going to be inconsistent and differ from reality. For instance, in this shot of the stones with the sun in the background, OnePlus adds a reddish tint to the whole image, which in my opinion spoils the otherwise amazing image. Also, remember that point I raised about OnePlus over-processing images? Well, that's consistent in HDR shots as well. You might think at first glance that OnePlus has a more detailed shot, but zoom in and you'll notice that is just over-sharpening, while the Vivo X90 Pro has much better detailing. Now this HDR performance is retained even when shifting to the ultra-wide sensors, so at least both phones are consistent there. Now in fact, if anything, you do notice a slight shift in the color processing when you go from the primary lens to the ultra-wide lens on the Vivo, but again that was to be expected since the primary lens in itself is again a massive 1-inch sensor. There's no perceivable color shift on the OnePlus 11, which is always good.
Now moving on to human portraits, there are some clear differences. See, Vivo likes to capture the subject as it is and keeps the tones natural. OnePlus on the other hand prefers to brighten up the face. Now as a result, your face looks better illuminated on the OnePlus 11. However, if you zoom in, you'll notice that Vivo actually manages to retain more details here. Now in this next frame as well, you'll notice that Vivo maintains the overall tone of the image and captures colors as it is. OnePlus has a mixed bag of processing. It boosts the contrast of dark elements in the subject, for instance my t-shirt, while brightening up my face. So as a result, what you get is a much better looking subject, which most folks would consider ideal when shooting human subjects. Now this is the case in portrait shots as well. See, Vivo maintains the color tones while OnePlus brightens up the subject. Now granted, this is different from reality, but when you're shooting human subjects, you want the face to be well illuminated at the very least, right? And in that aspect, it's clear that the OnePlus 11 shines better. However, that does not mean that Vivo is bad at capturing elements. See, basically when you are capturing accurate or color accurate shots, it is helpful in certain scenarios. Now moving on to selfies, under ideal lighting conditions, it's a close call. See, both phones produce nice colors with well-detailed structures, and even the portrait mode is great on both of them. OnePlus does brighten up the face ever so slightly, but it's not by a massive margin, so it's good on both. However, the vivo X90 Pro has a clear advantage with respect to HDR performance in selfie mode. See, with the sun behind me, just look at the shot that Vivo was able to capture as compared to the OnePlus 11. Vivo's shot is by no means perfect on its own, but compared to the OnePlus 11, it's miles ahead. Now moving on to videos, well, let's just take a look.
So recording 4K at 30 FPS from the Vivo, which is on my right, and the OnePlus, which is on my left. Just giving you an idea of the color reproduction here. The kind of natural bokeh that you can expect from both these phones, and of course the HDR performance. Also interestingly, I would like to highlight both the phones can record at 8K footage, although I choose to record at 4K because that's just more realistic. Alright, so we're recording 1080p 30 FPS footage from the OnePlus 11, which is on my left, and the vivo X90 Pro, which is on my right side. And we have the stability mode turned on for both, so there is going to be a little bit crop. I think comparing them side by side, I feel Vivo has a slightly bit more of a crop. That being said, just look at the HDR performance right now. I would say it's pretty good on both. But let me try and go for a little extreme one. Yep, this is where you feel Vivo has a clear advantage. It's able to balance the highlights as well as retain my skin texture as well. But nope, no such thing on the OnePlus. Yeah, nothing doing. Yeah. Other than that, as for the microphone quality, I'll let you guys be the judge which one you find to be a little bit more crisper. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below.
Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about low light photography. And on paper, Vivo's 1-inch sensor should shine much better. I mean, it should just easily outperform the OnePlus 11, right? Well, to be the bearer of good news, the vivo X90 Pro actually does outperform the OnePlus 11 in low light camera performance, as you can see right now. See, the OnePlus 11 definitely captures some very good and adequately illuminated shots, but Vivo clearly has that hardware level advantage, which just allows for the sensor to capture in so much more light, resulting in a far brighter shot. In fact, in some instances, the difference is like comparing an evening shot to a night shot. And don't worry, it's not that I was actually clicking one shot at night and one at the evening. Both the shots were clicked simultaneously, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually download all the camera samples directly from the link down there in the description box and analyze those shots for yourself. Now back to the comparison. There are two noteworthy things I want to highlight. First up, the OnePlus 11 still prefers to opt for a contrasty shot where it darkens certain elements. So there's that. Secondly, apart from the sensor advancement, the vivo X90 Pro also benefits from the Zeiss T-Star coating on top. Now what it does is that it essentially prevents ghost imaging and lens flares, thus resulting in a more clear image. Now if you recall, even the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus featured a similar coating. But then again, you can't really compare that to this one right here because of course this one is made by Zeiss. You know, the company that is famous for making... that did not come off as smoothly, but yeah, I was trying to refer lenses. Anyway, back to the shots, the quality of the lens speaks for itself. The vivo X90 manages to perform really well against lens flares. Now, it's not to say that the OnePlus 11 does badly, but the X90 Pro is so much better. Now, do you know which device is bad though? The iPhone 14 Pro. I mean, just look at this image, and I seriously don't understand why folks still feel iPhone is the best for photography when Android phones are just way ahead in every aspect of photography at the very least. But then again, that's a topic for another day in another video, so make sure that you're subscribed for that. But back to comparing these two phones. So OnePlus 11 versus vivo X90 Pro, which of these phones has a better camera for you? Well, for what it's worth, I would say that the vivo X90 Pro is the clear winner. Not only does it have a hardware level advantage, but the processing is also much better. The thing to note here is that it's much better from a critic's perspective. See, here's the thing. For most of the shots that I clicked, the OnePlus 11 resulted in shots that I would likely want to share with someone, just open my phone and quickly share it with my friends. With the vivo X90 Pro, while the shots are more accurate, like a clear representation of what I'm actually seeing, there are instances where I've personally felt that I could maybe boost the saturation a little bit, maybe turn down the highlights a little bit to capture the sky a little bit better, basically just post process it a little bit manually. As for me, I mean, as good as the vivo X90 Pro is, I am still very happy with my Xiaomi 13 Pro, which still remains my favorite camera smartphone out there. Again, favorite, not best, because there are certain things that I don't like about it, but I prefer using the word favorite because, it's a personal preference, and I still like using the Xiaomi 13 Pro. With that being said, would you like to see a camera comparison of the Xiaomi 13 Pro with the vivo X90 Pro? Let us know down in the comments below. Other than that, if you'd like to see how the 13 Pro compares against, OnePlus 11, you can check out that video by clicking on the card over here. Till then, this is Ron from GTR. This is hard to do, but I'll see you in the next one.